we're in a out of body experience. We are not in a dense world like we are now. This is dense. This is
Right.
dense. So if you, yeah, it takes time for things to develop. Yeah. What? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I would rather call it materialistic. Like you can hold things, right? You can touch.
Yeah.
Things, but
touch things.
yeah.
When you're out of body, it's you have to think about it if you want to do something. So well, fine, I'll take it deeper then. So I was always a big believer of praying. Yeah, dude, we're going in. We're going in right now. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. 149.
48 of two episodes of shoots. 148 episodes of A to the Show.
Yep.
Traveling around the world. Our first guest in Kentucky. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome.
Hello.
You for coming so much on the show. Yes. Let the world know who you are and what you do.
Yeah. So what's up, everyone? Hey, thanks to you guys for just taking the time to hang out with me, and we're just gonna have a fun conversation. So my name is Jamin Olivencia. I am a former professional wrestler, and now I am a personal development coach. Where do we go from there? You know, no, because it's just like it's life, dude. Like we're always evolving, we're always growing. Right. Mm-hmm. My whole life, I knew I was going to become a professional wrestler. Okay. I knew I was going to get to the WWE. I knew I was going to be able to live my dreams. It was a vision I had at the age of 5. And I made that happen. What's interesting about life, though, is you're always going in one direction. And then somehow, some way, something happens where you just turn and your perception changes. And then you kind of ask yourself, well, who am I without this thing? And I think that's what kind of brought me to personal development. I didn't realize when I was a wrestler and I was on the road that I would be traveling with guys who had, internal issues. And just being a voice for them or being an ear for them to discuss some of their deepest, darkest things, and finding that through the conversation, people do grow. People hear different perspectives, i.e. filters that they can look through and just see life differently. And I didn't recognize I had that talent until I got out of wrestling and people were telling me that. So I said, I guess I do have a natural thing to wanting to help people. Being a kid who grew up in special ed classes, I was bullied and picked on my whole life. I guess it derives from that, and having an empathy for those who do feel down. I was a kid who was actually a sad kid growing up. Had an awesome family, awesome mother who supported my dreams. When everyone said, "Oh, you want to be a wrestler?" That's like impossible for a kid like you. But my mom would sit there and tell me, "Hey, no matter what, you could be whatever the hell you want." And I think she gave me a lot of foundation.
I want to ask, so you were in special ed. So what is that? That's like...
Yeah, I was in class with kids with autism, ADHD, bipolar, Down syndrome. A lot of these kids. I was diagnosed with spinal meningitis as a kid. Didn't know that for the first 20 years of my life. My mom told me later, and she didn't put me on medication. So what she did do is teach me how to meditate. So at a very young age, I had an issue with retaining information. They told my mom I'd be mentally retarded, but she looked at me and she was like, I don't think anything's wrong with them, but I did have issues retaining information. You could tell me 2 + 2 is 4 for 10 years, and I wouldn't understand the mechanics behind that. Like, it was really hard for me to understand physical reality at a very young age. So I was kind of a dreamer. I was a kid who sat in class, but I was with a bunch of dreamers. When you're around a bunch of kids who have some of these conditions, you find out that they're actually some of the most inspiring people you can ever be around. Learning from them in a lot of ways to look through a different lens, as I was saying before. And I think I took a lot of those lessons with me. So by the age of 16, information started sticking. And I think that was due to meditation. My mother, like I said, never put me on medication or sent me to anybody. She just believed that if she didn't tell me that I had a condition, that I could actually get out of that. And I think she's right, man. Like, if it wasn't for her, I don't know where I'd be. I don't know if I don't know.
I wanna comment on this. Just because I also I'm a behavioral therapist. I work with different kids who have special needs, and a lot of the time, some of the, like just the stigma of the label of like you have autism or you have
Yeah.
OCD or whatever dooms you forever. A lot of these kids, they're told like they can't do anything in life or they can't reach any moments of success. And I personally think that it's wrong to give people these own like self limitations and their own self stigmas, right? Because just like you can be able to go past whatever label you have and
Yeah.
achieve things, right? So how is
Yeah.
that journey for you? Yeah.
No, thanks.
Mhm.
That's awesome that you said that, because that was a lot of her theory.
Right.
I believe life is a dream.
Mhm.
I keep it at that. So I'll get a little woo woo on you guys. I grew up having what you would know as out of body experiences, um, astral projection, whatever these topics are that these names to these things are.
I've read about these.
I
I'm very interested now.
We're very interested now.
yeah. I would. So yeah, if you don't mind, I'll go on
Go
a
for it.
story
Please,
and
please
how it
do.
relates to
What do you
life.
We're
mean?
listening.
Of course,
We're a
go.
podcast. That's the whole
Yeah.
point.
So
Dude.
let's just go down this road for a moment.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So growing up, so I'd say about the age of 4, I started having night terror dreams. My mom, being a palm reader or into that kind of stuff, was very helpful because she had an open mind when I would tell her about these night terrors I'd have. And so they call it sleep paralysis, where you wake up and you're still, you can't move. And I went through this a lot growing up. I would be in my bed and couldn't move, but I can see everything around me. And I would see these shadow figures, and they would sit on my chest at times. Sometimes I felt like I was being choked by them. It was very menacing. It felt very threatening to me at the time. And I would ask my mom, hey, I'm having these dreams and they're making me feel this way. And I'm getting attacked by like devils and demons. I would just make up whatever came to mind. And my mom would say, hey, just stare at them. Don't pay too much attention to them. And I'd say, oh, easy for you to say. What's funny though, is so all the way to the age of 4, and we'll fast forward to like 12, 11, I don't remember. But I remember having a particular out of body experience. By the way, I had these every night. So going to bed was like scary for me. My mom was like, okay, it's bedtime. And I'm like, gosh, I got to go do this. So I would just go to bed very reluctant and scared. But yeah, when I was 11 or 12, I had this experience where I saw this like Doberman Pinscher looking dog. It looked like a demon, but its skin was like kind of half off and it was drooling from the mouth. And I remember just having this thought of just stare at it. So I stared at it. And the more I stared at it, I started to observe its teeth and I started to observe its lips and watching the drool drip from, the mouth to the chin to off the chin. And I remember being fascinated by that, like being like, whoa, am I creating this? And the minute I had that thought, all of a sudden the thing dissipated in front of me. And to me, that was one of the fundamental things that I learned about exploring out of body more. So once I did that, I was like, "Ooh, that's interesting." And then I started going to bed with a more optimistic attitude where like, "Oh, I'm going to try that again." And I would try it. And some days it would be there, some days it wouldn't. But then I would just I was so hyper focused on it. And I recall like just having moments where I'm like waking up now and I'm seeing my mom get ready for work and I'm downstairs, but I'm sleeping upstairs. And I'd see my twin brother getting ready for school and my older brother. And I can hear my twin brother saying things like, oh, I'm going to wake up Jamin now. And he would come and I can hear him like walking downstairs and I could hear Jamin and coming up the stairs. And it almost zapped me back into my body. Like, whoa, okay, what's that all about? So I would get into I wanted to explore that as much as possible. I can't say I'm a professional at dreams or anything, but I have out of body experiences very naturally. Is that because maybe the conditions my brain was surrounded as a kid? I don't know. It's an interesting thing. I see people doing meditations on it all the time, trying to figure out how to do that. Where for me, it just came very naturally. So once the internet came about for us, I started looking up that stuff, found out these are called, near-death experiences or out-of-body experiences. So I totally dove into that. Yes, sir.
Let's talk a little bit about this because this is very interesting to me. So what do you believe happens when you go to sleep? Like spiritually speaking, let's leave the scientific part for
Yeah, please. Yeah, let's please leave science out. Science would
Full
would,
disclosure.
would go against me, but I think what's happening is I think no matter who you are, whether you remember your dreams or not, you are dreaming every night. You are leaving your body every night. I think the way we define things is what stops our mind from perpetuating more experiences. So if you say, oh, I had this dream and it was just a dream, in your mind, you write it off. But if you say, wow, I had this dream, and you choose to remember it and you choose to go into it a little bit deeper, you'll find out the next time you have one, you'll be even deeper into it and more aware. So what I believe is happening is I do believe that our souls or consciousness or whatever you want to define it as is separating from your body in that moment. What I found in out-of-body exploration is everything is very slippery the way you think. So what you think comes right away. And I believe these rules apply to Earth. See, now when we're in a out-of-body experience, we are not in a dense world like we are now. This is dense. This is dense. So if you, it takes time for things to develop. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I would rather call it materialistic. Like you can hold things, right? You can touch.
Yeah.
But,
touch things. When you're out of body, you have to think about it if you want to do something. So well, fine, I'll take it deeper then. So I was always a big believer of praying. Yeah, dude, we're going in. We're going in right now. I don't give a shit. We're going. How many is that? That's one. That's one.
That's bro. You have all the shits in the world. Just do it.
That's two. That's two. I'm keeping track here. So yeah, I've understood through my experience. I can't speak for other people, but when you are outside your body, for example, if I want to leave my body and go to the kitchen, I make a command: kitchen now in the kitchen. Okay. So it's not the same as what you would do in your body. In your body, you would get up, if I want to grab this, my brain's already telling me to grab this cup of coffee, In an out of body, you would have to say, I want coffee now. You make a command, and all of a sudden coffee's in your hand. I'm drinking the coffee now. And yes.
I just want to know, when you're moving, right? Are you like moving to the kitchen, or is it like you're all of a sudden in the kitchen, like a teleportation?
It's a little bit of both. Yeah. Really? That's a good question. Yeah, so it's very sensitive over there. It depends on your confidence inside the experience. So most people will have these experiences, and if they think fearful right away, then you will see fearful things. So I believe growing up, because I had such a low self-esteem, I thought I was stupid. I didn't understand why I was on special ed classes. I didn't understand why I couldn't learn information when it was being taught to me. It was, I come from a very big family. So when you come from a big family, you have cousins who kind of pick on you about it and perpetuate those things. So I believe because I was so down on myself, I was experiencing negative things, or things that would align to what that feels like. So you would see them in another form. And I believe our thoughts are doing that no matter where we are. So when you're awake and you wake up, let's use an example. You wake up in the day and you say, oh, fuck, I don't want to go to work today. I don't want to go to, when you do this, you are already setting the energy in motion of what you shall experience on a physical level. Right. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to experience it right away like you would in an out of body, but it happens over time. Over time, the more you perpetuate and train your mind to think a certain way, you'll experience things that way. I believe the only reason why I was able to make pro wrestling work for me was because I just believed I can do it. I don't think it was anything else other than putting in the work at a young age. Because it was 13, I was like, oh, let me work out between these commercials when I'm watching pro wrestling. Let me work out. So I'd work out a little bit. Then wrestling comes back on, you're watching again. But my mind was constantly focused on wrestling. When I would fail a test, I would actually imagine as a kid that this was the part of the match where I was losing. Like I was so engulfed.
It's amazing.
He's losing.
Yeah, I'm losing. I'd ask a girl out in high school and she would say no.
And you got knocked down.
I got knocked down in the match. That's the part of the match where I'm losing.
There's something
but the match was never finished.
Something I forgot to mention in the beginning of the show. Glasses are broken. Audience. Story. But I'm still wearing them because I want to look at our guest while he speaks. Therefore, please continue.
Thank you. It looks great. Looks great. It's a good look.
It looks great.
Doing the best you can. But you're doing the best you
I'm doing
can.
the best I can. Yeah, I'm waiting for the players to come in. They're gonna. But yeah. Anyway, so
All right, that's pretty cool.
going
So
back
what,
to
what
the
about
whole,
All right, we can. You want to talk about lucid dreaming?
Yeah,
All right,
so
I want to do. What do you
very
feel? What do you feel when you go to these out of body experiences? Do you feel like pleasure? Does it feel good to be?
Yeah, yeah, it does.
Right. Okay.
It does. At this point, I've been, gosh, I'm 35 years old now, so I've been doing this my whole life. You figure out ways to navigate it. As corny as this sounds, I like to visit, like, you want to call it other planets, dimensions, whatever. I'm not sure what to call it, because I believe it's all in my consciousness that's happening. I don't know if it's actual physical place somewhere, but for me, yeah, I like to go visit different things and gain new perspectives. And so when I wake up and I'm back in my body, I almost feel like I'm back with this different knowledge, this different. I can't tell you where I've changed, but somewhere in my body, the way I'm listening to people, the way I'm understanding people, I'm seeing them more on an energetic level than a physical level. I guess you can call that empathy. You can call it all these words that describe,
how you
feelings
care for
and
other
sensations.
people? So when you're talking to another person, you feel different towards them now. You see them more of like a soul than like maybe a physical.
Yeah, man, I see them as a light. When you interact with other things on this other side, whatever you want to call it,
right?
I feel like they're like these balls of light that are just floating past you, and they're showing you something. So I believe that what we're in front of right now, even what our eyes are showing us, is meant to be, as cliche as that sounds. I think it's a product of your mind and how it's brought you here. If you guys look at what your show is doing, or what you guys are doing and building your show and doing the best you can, but then here we are talking about it, suddenly it's all in line with where you're supposed to be. And so even if things weren't going well, that might be a product of the way you're thinking about it. And so I do believe mindset and the way we look at things affects us in the physical in a more long term. But then when you're out of body, everything's happening rapidly fast. So for another example, I had issues learning. So my mother would always say, like, hey, like, just instead of saying you're stupid, instead of saying you're going to have a bad day, just be the best you can today. Just tell yourself you're going to be the best you can. Okay, mom, I'm going to be the best I can today. And then I started like saying that stuff when I would like walk to school. I'd be like, all right, I'm going to be the best I can today. Now this is around high school time. All right, I'm going to be the best I can today. And all of a sudden my days would get a little bit better. All of a sudden I'm making more friends. All of a sudden, like, these experiences start opening up. Mm-hmm. So I do believe we can put walls around ourselves based upon our mindset and the way we are telling ourselves a narrative about what is happening. But just as fast as those things come to you in a negative way, you can also turn those things around in a more optimistic, positive way. So when someone says, oh, you just got to think positive, I don't know if it's just that. It's like, you got to be it. You can't just think it. You have to be who you are.
Yeah. All right. One more question. One more question about
this
whole thing before we get out of this rabbit
hole. Sure.
Is it like an online multiplayer thing where you get to see other people having their out of body experience, or is it like a solo player kind of? Like how does that?
That's a really good question. That's an awesome question. I would say it is like a multiplayer thing, because I do feel like I see other people doing that unconsciously. They don't even know.
Is it like a yo, hey, like? Because this is, I've read about
sometimes,
this, and it's very, very like, whoa. I'm talking to a person who's actually experienced this, right? So
I'm so glad. Yeah.
As retarded as my questions might sound, just take them for what.
Not at all, dude. Not at all. No, I'm into it. Because I believe it's I can't say everyone can do this, but I think it's something that one should learn, because then you're learning other dimensions of yourself that you don't really do. Like, what does everyone do every day? They get up and they got to go to work, or they got to do something, and their mind is not fixated on another way of looking at life, where I think I was taking those experiences and applying them to the physical reality and saying, oh, how can I do this today? Or how can I do that? Or what did I learn on the other side? I've seen these things. I would consider them like angels or something. Like, I don't know how else to call them. Like,
I mean, it's
cool. I'd see these things
of
light.
Whoa.
Yeah, to me they felt like angels, but maybe that's because it was my background in religion growing up as a Catholic. I don't know, but angels is what feels comfortable for me.
Yeah.
And I would feel these beings, and they looked like statues, bro. Like they would have like this power to them. Their faces are chiseled perfectly. Sometimes you would see things that look like football shaped head things. Did you ever see like Hey Arnold, that cartoon?
Yeah.
There would be these football shaped looking heads, but they look like kind of like stink bugs. They look like insects, like larger insects, but yet there would be these feelings of good coming from them. And so I would know on an energetic level, like when I'm staring at these things, and it's not like a conversation like we're having now where it's like, hey, how are you? How are you doing today?
Right.
Good. How are you? It's not that. It's more like, do you understand? Yes, I do. I understand. Do you understand?
wow.
It's like this feeling that comes over you of,
Right.
do you understand that this is your mission? Yeah, I understand.
Connection.
If you want to use the word telepathic, I would say that, when we talk about aliens and stuff, I would say I believe in aliens based upon what I've seen. I can leave my body, go outside, look up at the sky, and you would see spaceships everywhere. It's like, oh, interesting. I'm just looking through a different filter.
Right.
So it doesn't even mean those things are here or not here. It's just the way the human biology is designed is maybe we don't have access to that sometimes. And I don't know where that comes from, how it comes from. Science better figure it out, I suppose. But I do believe that the mind plays a big role in what we see. And so, yes, I would see. So sometimes it's a multiplayer. Sometimes I'm solo. Sometimes I'm seeing dusty planets where I'm on these planets full of like water, and you'll see like empty like gates, like you'd see like these fences. I would see like these fences, and they look rusted. And what I would pick up from that is like, oh, like this civilization got wiped out somehow, but it has its water. Sometimes I felt closer to the moon, where I'd look up at the sky on a particular water-like planet, and the moon is actually closer. So when you look up at the sky at the moon, just in general, it's kind of far. You see a circle, whatever. But this would be like right almost in front of you, and you're like, wow, I'm closer to the moon. What planet is this? And you would have these natural questions, not necessarily getting the answers to them, but your answers are more in what you feel from it and how you come back from it, and what those perspectives do for you when you're walking through life, if that makes sense.
Right.
Makes sense.
I mean, it doesn't. Well, part of it, I guess, it doesn't make sense, right? Because it's not very like sciencey or grounded, right? What you're saying. How do you know what to make out of these things that you see? So you see, right? Let's say the rusted fences, right? I feel like it's even more confusing for you, right? Because you have to wake up and then you have to analyze. Okay, this is what I saw. How am I going to take it and put it into my own life, right?
That's a great question. Yeah, I don't know. So when I say that these planets are empty and maybe a civilization was wiped out or something,
Right.
I'm going off of pure instincts. I do believe, though, when you interpret your dreams, good or bad, whatever the case is, when you put attention on them, you develop a muscle to kind of at least understand what is happening in your own way. So for me to say all these things and say, this is the truth and this is how it is, I think is bullshit. I think that would be me trying to put my belief systems onto people. And that could be limiting, because if people haven't experienced them, then how would they know? So, I do believe it's certainly about interpreting it as much as possible. As a kid, I would, because I started getting excited and enthusiastic about this, that I would want to, like, as a kid, when you're getting bullied and picked on and you don't really have friends, the only thing that's cool to me was pro wrestling and like going to sleep and experiencing these things. You're just, all of my attention was on it.
And if you focus on it, and if it's something that's on your mind, you can get better, I guess, at remembering your dreams and accessing those things.
100%. It's a muscle.
Do you like remember your dreams at all?
I said it before on the show. I actually don't dream.
All right, you don't dream.
Yeah.
I dream, and I've been getting better at remembering my dreams more recently, because I've had more vivid dreams and I've been focusing on them more. So I guess I like, and like it just one after another. Now I get more and more dreams that are more and more vivid, and
love it.
I try to remember them, and then I wake up and I tell people about my dreams. I can actually remember my dreams.
So let me give you a technique if you want to explore it more. When you go to bed, maybe before bed, tell your mind that hey, like I'm awake. And so when the reel or the Rolodex of your thoughts start to pass over when you sleep, you're unconscious, conscious, the I am awake may pop up and you might be like, oh, wow, I'm here for a second. You might experience something like that. I also believe deep breathing will get you there. If you're doing, it sounds silly, but if you do about like 50 deep breaths, where you're breathing in for maybe 5 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, let it out for 5, whatever, take your time with it. But count to 50. You'll actually feel your body disappear and you'll start feeling this buzzing. Have any of you two ever woke up and felt like you fell, like you were like floating and like you fell into the like that's you hovering over your body? And so Ali says,
yeah. I'm like, sometimes I wake
when I
up.
was a kid, it happens a lot, but nowadays
this happened recently to me also. Yeah.
You want to know what's weird about my dreaming? Is I either don't dream or dream something and then see it happen in real life in the next like week or so. It's weird. I don't know how to explain it, but it actually does happen. It's like someone says a word and I'm like, oh my God, I've seen this in a dream before. Like I've seen this. So
you put more emphasis on that. You give yourself value for that. Wow, this is something that I was able to achieve, even if it was only for me. And this is interesting to me and authentic to me. But put extra interest in that. When you put extra interest in it, your power grows.
Whoa.
Do you understand?
You know what? I understand 100%.
Slippery. That's very slippery.
All right. So we talked a lot about dreams. I want to hear about your wrestling career. How that tied into wrestling for you. So you dreamt about being a wrestler also when you were a kid, like a pro wrestler,
that was my first vision as a child.
How that happened? The first vision? Go for it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, like I saw my older brother was watching Macho Man Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat. Do you guys know anything about pro wrestling?
Oh yeah, dude, Randy Savage.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Come on.
So he would be watching these he'd be watching these matches and I just remember seeing it and I had a vision of myself doing it. And what's crazy is when I'm just going to fast forward for a second. When I got into wrestling and I started like getting my body in better shape, the way I saw my body as a kid, as an adult, was the way my body ended up forming as an adult, which was kind of weird. You know, it's like, oh, interesting. But you're not thinking that. I just knew I was going to do it. And I would tell my friends, my family, I want to be a wrestler. I remember my guidance counselor in 10th grade, like I said, being a special needs student, she'd be like, hey, what do you want to do in college? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I guess psychology, but I think I want to be a pro wrestler. And she's like, oh, well, pro wrestling is like making the NFL, and I don't know, it's going to be up your alley. And I'd say, I know, but I just know in my heart, I'm going to do it. Like I remember hearing that and not getting mad and not getting angry about someone, going against what I want to do. But I felt like, fuck, this is what I want to do. Like, I don't know. It's in my heart.
I think because as a kid, you realize that they didn't see what you've seen in your vision.
And that's why I can't allow someone's opinion to dictate how I feel. And what a lot of people do is they get upset about it. And so that puts your energy in a funk. But I don't subscribe to like, even if someone has more merit than me somewhere, I'm not going to sit there. And if they say that I'm wrong about something, I'm not going to sit there and say, oh yeah, maybe I am wrong, or maybe I can't do it. I'm not going to accept that. Like, I'm going to accept what my heart is telling me. My heart is telling me to speak in any situation the way I need to. And you got to go with that. You got to go with being yourself. That's so freaking important. True. It's like the foundation of everything.
And you got to believe in other people also. When someone says, I want to be a wrestler, you don't want to tell them, hey, actually, it's not that realistic, especially if you're in school.
Yeah.
You want to hear from your teachers and like your parents and people around you that, hey, you can actually do what you want to do.
You can do it. Yeah. Right. And I didn't hear that, I didn't hear that. I would hear a lot of criticism, but my mother would always be like, hey, dude, if that's what you effing want to do, then go do it. Really? Okay. Wow. Well, she believes in me out of everyone, but she's partial. I get it. But then by the age of 16, there was a local wrestling school. I grew up in Buffalo, by the way, Buffalo, New York, Niagara Falls. And there was a local wrestling school and I got into it. And then one of the trainers took a liking to me. He thought I worked hard. I begged my mother to sign the papers for me to like start training because I wasn't 18 yet. And she knew how much it meant to me. So she did it. And because I've been studying wrestling, I was like such a natural at it. Like picking up the movements and the way you fall. And I was just thriving every day. And so I dropped out of college. I got out of there, and I was only in college for like a couple semesters or something. And I got out of college, and then I went into, I took more wrestling. And then all of a sudden, when my trainer was like, do you want to go to England and get some experience? So I went to England for 6 months, no money in the bank, just tried it. I was wearing these like, I was wearing at the time Speedos, or not Speedos, biker shorts, the tight ones. What do you call them? I don't know why I'm having. Yeah, I guess they're biker shorts, whatever. But there'd be these tight things.
Yeah.
Like this,
and I would have them spray painted with my like wrestling name on them or whatever. And yeah, so I went to England, came back, and I met this gentleman who ended up becoming like a father to me. He saw me after a wrestling show, and he said, what are your goals? And, you know, at the time he was in his 60s, and I said, oh yeah, I want to make it to WWE. Well, what do you need to do that? And I'm like, I don't know, dude, I'm signing your autograph right now. Like, he's just like asking me these questions. It was kind of annoying. And he's like, yeah, but what do you like? How do you see yourself? And I was like, I don't know. And he goes, well, here's my information. Email me sometime. And I was like, okay. So I told my mom about it. At the time I was 17. And, my mom was like, no, I think he's got bad intentions, whatever. But I emailed him anyway. I went against her, and I emailed him anyway. And I said, hey, what's up? What do you want to talk about? And he said, well, why don't we meet out to eat? And my mom wasn't big on that, but she said, I'll wait in the parking lot for you. So she dropped me off, and I talked to him, and he asked me all my goals, and his name's Ray. And you talk about angels and stuff. I think Ray was put into my life as one of those things that I saw on the other side that was protecting me. However you want to look at it, I just think that's him in a human form. Oh no.
All right.
And he gave me that face, and I thought he meant Rey Mysterio. I was like,
I'm so sorry. It's not
your fault.
No, it's not your fault. It's
like I ruined it for everyone. Okay, I ruined it for everyone.
You're good, honestly. Like, no. All right, so you meet Ray, and
I meet Ray, and he says, I'm going to give you this amount of money, and you're going to live your dream. And it was over $100,000. I won't go into the specifics of the numbers, and he said, I'm going to give you this amount, and I don't know what it is about you, but I see something in you. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, well, what do you want? Is this like some type of sexual thing? Are you trying something? I had to ask, and he says, no, I just want to see you succeed. I have a passion for being a spectator of wrestling. And I think you have something to offer the business. I've been watching it my entire life, and there's just something about you. So he gave me a bunch of money, and I had the opportunity to move to Louisville, Kentucky, go to Ohio Valley Wrestling, which was the Harvard of Pro Wrestling at the time, OVW in 2004. I was 18, and I was able to fund my career because of the money he gave me. I didn't have a normal job like most people had to do if they wanted to make their dreams happen, do the job, then go to training. I was just training all the time. So my whole dedication was, on wrestling. And being a poor kid and growing up, it was like a gift from the universe, if you want to call it that. And I just don't, how it all came together is to this day still kind of blows my mind. It's very much like a dream, because where in life does that happen for someone? When someone just says, hey, I believe in you, here's a bunch of money, and I want nothing in return. Okay. So I equate that to a lot of maybe my natural passion for the business that I had at a young age. And that's why I believe no matter who you are, you can make shit happen for yourself. It's just a matter of you really believing that you can do that and not worrying about how. I think sometimes we worry about the how and we think too far ahead, and that can kind of trip us up, versus being present where everything is born. Every idea is being born now. Everything that I'm thinking about myself is being born now. So if we understand what's happening now, then the long term is not so bad. Think of your thoughts like coins in a jar.
Right.
However you view yourself, however you view things. If you're viewing things from a, pessimistic point of view, you're collecting pennies in a jar. If you're viewing yourself in a higher form of, hey, I know I could do the best. Yeah, I'm going to be the best I can. You might be putting dollars in a jar. I'm not sure. The mind is very powerful. I'll tell you a quick story about the mind. I remember reading an article in 2007 on Google about some kid who found a bunch of pennies in a year, and he had thousands of dollars in the bank at the end of the year. just because he would do that. So I said, oh, I want to try that trick. So I told myself, wherever you go, like if you see a coin on the ground, just pick it up. So in a year's time, I had a few $1,000 in the bank. And I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, oh, wow, when you set your mind to something, it just kind of happens for you in other ways. Right. So it sounds silly, but I believe the mind is very powerful, very powerful. Not the brain, the mind.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's make this clear. What's the difference between the brain and the mind?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think the brain is, and I may not articulate this great, but I'll do the best I can. I think the brain is designed to figure things out. Like if you're trying to unscrew something or wash the dishes, that's the brain at work.
Logical aspect.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the logical as what's in front of you, picking up this phone, grabbing my cup of coffee, putting it to my mouth. That's the brain. But I believe, yeah, hell yeah, I had to slip the drink in for a second.
Cool. It's cool. You're good. Anyways, so then what's the mind?
The mind is imagination. I think it's the way you perceive what's in front of you. You are telling yourself, yeah, that could be some brain, but I think imagination is a doorway in a lot of ways. Let's see. Yes.
Right. I just want to say, because you talk about imagination and stuff, I feel like as adults, we're told not to imagine things. Imagination is left for kids, because when you play, you imagine you're in like this universe, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're older, you don't need to imagine anymore, because you have your brain where you can do a job and stuff.
Yeah.
Why is it important to imagine?
I believe it's important to imagine because those are the fundamental roots where we come from. When we start getting older, we get this impression that we know what this thing is called life. We know what we got to do, but we don't know shit. I don't think we know anything. So when you're a kid, you don't know shit. You just have belief, right? You're just like, oh, I could believe I could do this. And you notice more magical things happen when you're a kid. Right. And then what I also often hear from many people is they're like, oh man, I wish I was a kid again. Or, oh, if I can only think like that again. But I think what got them stuck in that one spot is they stopped using imagination because maybe someone told them that they couldn't, or because it's not practical. Like imagination is very practical in many ways. If I am, I'll give you a little example, and I'm going to use wrestling. But when I used to go out and perform, the audience would erupt for me. They would be very excited to see me. And I remember guys asking me, why is that happening? Like, how are you getting the crowd behind you? They would always wonder that. And for me, it was like, oh, well, I would just imagine them going crazy for me before. And they said, oh, so all I got to do is imagine it. And that's what's going to happen. Well, hold on. So imagination goes with heart. So in my heart, in my mind or in my imagination, I was imagining the crowd coming up before I even walked out. But then in my heart, I was asking from my imagination, I just want to give them a good time. Like that's where my intent is. So intent is like a whole nother like realm or dimension that you can open up. So a lot of people do things because, hey, if you're helping an old lady across the street because you want to, then that's coming from the heart. If you're helping an old lady across the street because everyone's watching, that's from the brain a little bit. And so I think people kind of enter into certain circumstances with an intent that may not be pure, where my intent was pure and wanting to genuinely give audiences, kids, families, like a good freaking time, a good match, something that that's memorable. And that was in the imagination. So when I was telling guys this, they would be like, oh, well, I imagined the crowd going crazy for me and it didn't work. Well, yeah, but your intent was different. Like you were only doing it to serve your ego in some type of way, to serve your this greedy side of wanting to feel popular. But popularity is not, something you do because you got to do something to impress people. Popularity comes from you being authentic, I think.
Right.
Or yeah.
So is this what you see is the key to becoming like a great wrestler? You've met a bunch of wrestlers. There are good wrestlers, there are great wrestlers that have great physique and stuff. What makes like a legendary wrestler, like the ones we all know and love?
John Cena, people who are, I think imagination. I think they believe in themselves, and I think they don't listen to other people's opinions about how they should do things from their heart. when you see a guy like John Cena, who has so many Make-A-Wish foundations, who's doing these things, I don't think he's doing them so he can remain famous. I think he's doing it because he genuinely wants to give people that. And so life, the universe, however you want to view it, will give you the responsibilities if you're genuinely behind that. But if you're not genuinely behind something, then life, the universe, your mind, however you want to look at it, will give you exactly what you're looking for. However, people don't have these conversations often. They don't talk, they don't break down their consciousness like that.
Right. No one does. This is freaky.
Right. Yeah. So you might miss the boat. You might miss the boat right. if you're not because we're afraid to be vulnerable or something, or we're afraid to tell what really feels. I couldn't tell you how many people. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Or be wrong. Exactly. Well said, man. And it was like what Ali was saying earlier. Like, yeah, I think I experienced those things, or it's like you can't experience things unless you don't believe it's really happening. And sometimes we just allow too many people on the outside to dictate what we are when they have no idea who we are. Even if you know someone so well, you don't really know them. Like, I've had conversations with people where I might open up about my out of body experiences, and they're like, dude, I totally had those, but I was afraid to talk about that with so many people. It's like, oh, well, that's a huge block in your life then. Because now you're muting yourself to appease others so that they like you. That's a bit stressful. That takes a lot of energy.
All right. So
that builds walls.
You're pretty brave, right? You're talking about people are scared to talk about these things. You're pretty brave. You don't mind talking about what comes to your mind. How do you get over that fear?
That's a good question. The first answer is I don't know. Because I can only speak from my point of view. But for me, I think what got me over my fears is, let me think about this for a second. That's a good question. And it because there's so many answers that can feel good and be like, oh yeah, I could see that. But I think getting over fear is training yourself on a daily basis to be more honest. So if there are things lingering in your life, if there are things lingering in your relationship, if you're not having conversations that you should be, I would invite you to try doing those things so that you can gain enough confidence to get over things. You have to pick something you don't want to do, or that you are neglecting. We all are doing something we're neglecting. And if you don't do that, I don't think if you don't face certain things and you just keep sweeping them under the rug, eventually you're going to step on that rug and dust is going to fly out and shit's going to hit the fan. So I think one way to get over your fears is do something you don't want to do. And you could start real small. For example, I believe in the modalities of training the mind by doing like simple cleaning things. So if you don't like making your bed, make your freaking bed. If you don't like doing the dishes, do the dishes, but find ways to interact with the experience instead of saying, oh, I got to do the dishes. For example, if I'm doing the dishes, I might say, okay, I'm going to play 2 songs on my phone and I want to have the dishes completely done by them. And now you're playing a game with yourself, but this is imagination again. Now you're entering different states of understanding how to explore what you are and what you're capable of. A lot of us just don't step out of our comfort zone. And I think that's why we fear. But I do believe stepping out of the comfort zone is no different than an out of body experience. Like you'll experience an out of body and it might not be pleasant, but then to say, hey, I'm going to try that again. I'm just going to try it again. And then you do it again and you start remembering things a little bit differently. You just gain a confidence. I think confidence comes from just doing things you don't want to do. I really believe that. I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to learn, but I went and I tried so hard. And it took years for me to get over certain humps. But eventually I just said, oh, you just got to be you. And as an adult, by the way, I still had to learn that. When I got into pro wrestling, it's a very political industry. So it wasn't like I can just go tell people, oh yeah, I'm floating out of my body without looking like a complete nutcase. Right. So it's one of those things where I would get scared but now I'm 35 and I don't really give a shit anymore what people think or what happens, because I believe that I've learned that being yourself is the best medicine, man. There's no other medicine than just being yourself, but being yourself doesn't mean you have to be an asshole to people. So I think there's rules where you can't, excuse my language, I don't know if I'm past the line of swearing.
No, you can do, speak your mind. Go for it.
Take it.
Yeah.
I just don't think like you have to, I think when you're hurting people along the way, when you have ill intent, it's all in your intention. Mm-hmm. How can I be myself and not be a jerk? Some people, I talk to some clients and they'll say like, well, I was telling the truth and I told him he was an asshole. I'm like, okay, so let's talk about your communication and your approach, because your communication and approach was, the intent of that was to hurt that person or to let them know that you were frustrated. I think there's ways to communicate with people around us or yourself in a way that doesn't have to be so angry and mean. And I think when you put out this energy, as carny or as cliche as this sounds, when you put out an energy, it just comes back on you, tells you exactly what's going on. Oh, this is your data. Everything you're experiencing, your data, what's in front of your eyes, is a product of you. Let's not forget that. The only reason why I believe we're sitting here, and this is my belief system, is because we're all exactly the same somewhere. Or else why are we even meeting?
That's interesting.
All right. Have you always like been this way with your your thoughts and stuff, or did you make mistakes in the past that have taught
of course
these lessons? Like, were you a jerk in the past and now you're like,
yeah,
I don't want to be a jerk anymore, right?
I was never a jerk. And then because I got bullied and picked on, but then when I got into pro wrestling and I started to become a champion, and all of a sudden I was getting this attention, and all of a sudden, you know, people think you're so great. And I saw people, even wrestlers, like fearing me. They're like, "Hey, how you doing, sir?" And I'm like, "Oh, you don't have to call me sir. I'm Jamin." But over time, you start getting this like ego. You're like, "Oh yeah, maybe I am the man. Maybe I am pretty cool."
No one's there to humble you or keep you in check, so that just is left there to grow. Basically.
Yeah, I had good friends. Luckily, there was a circle of us that would always talk about certain things. But yeah, I think I had to experience being kind of a jerk in certain ways to people. Like, you know, a lot of my issues were around women, and like, oh, I was a kid that never got any girls never liked me. But then all of a sudden when I became a wrestler, like all of a sudden it was like a kid in a candy store, like everyone loved me. And so it was like, oh, how do I contain this? So I had some ego going on for a very long time.
Okay.
But then I realized I was hurting people. And it in the moments, it didn't seem like it mattered. You're like, just keep going. But now years and years of that builds up, and you start reflecting, and all of a sudden you start feeling a certain way. So I think it was through, I noticed I was hurting people, but even though back then I was justifying my actions, I didn't really understand the impact I was having. So when I got in my 30s, I started to change, and as far as that's concerned. So yeah, I did go through a time when I was a jerk. I went through a time where I was on a little bit of a power trip, where I thought I was the man and no one can touch me and blah, blah, blah. But if it wasn't for the foundation that I think my mother gave me, and maybe the experiences I had growing up, I don't know if I would have ever got out of that. See, I think a big issue for people is they don't reflect. They don't ever go to bed, and they go to bed and I'm tired, I'm going to sleep. But if you reflect on your day and say, okay, what did I do today? And then you start kind of remembering conversations, and you're like, oh, I probably shouldn't have said that in front of that person, or, oh, you know, it's scary to look at it. It's scary to look at those things.
What is yeah. Ali, you have a quote, right, about reflection or something?
Yeah, an hour of reflection is worth 70,000 years of worship. It's not my quote. It's
sorry, yeah.
Religious figures quote.
Interesting.
Yeah.
If you spend 1 hour reflecting in the eyes of God, it's worth 70,000 hours. Or 70,000 years of worshiping. You know what I mean? Oh, and I'm just going haywire, just like that.
That's okay.
No, it looks good. Looks good.
That's kind of wild.
I mean,
whoa. All right.
I mean, I say that, and then this happens. I don't know what's
right.
Nope. And
that's so funny.
Yeah.
All right.
I think I'm just gonna switch cameras real quick. So I'm gonna
cool.
Do your thing.
What I want to know is that, so you, when you were a kid, you had this vision, this dream, I want to be a pro wrestler.
Yeah.
And you did that. And then you're like, oh, actually, I want to, help people, right?
Yeah.
How did, was it hard for you to get out of the pro wrestling phase?
It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, because that was the love of my life.
Okay.
It was the only thing I knew. So yeah, this is a good question. So I was one of WWE's top prospects to be coming up. And unfortunately for me, I picked a day to walk up to a certain individual who is a higher up and talk to them. And the reason why I talked to him was because his wife told me to, and she said it'd be okay, but I don't think he liked that. And then he had me kicked out, and my dream was squashed. So when I had all of his people who were behind me, they all loved me. Everyone there loved me. So I had my first WWE match when I was 19 years old on Sunday Night Heat. And they would bring me up for, up to 10 years throughout those years, giving me opportunities after opportunities. A lot of the reason why I don't think I was picked up early was because I was still young and I didn't have I don't know if the word's character, but I didn't have a personality yet. Right. I was good in the ring. I was good physically. I was able to do the stuff, but there was no marketing to me. I didn't really understand what I was. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so when I started picking up steam there and getting a lot of opportunities for them, they were bringing me on the road with them for a couple months, and I would get more of those opportunities. I would talk to people, and I wasn't patient. I think that's what got me. When I talked to that one person, and she said, "Hey, go talk to my husband. I think he'll like you." And then when I went up to him, I just went up to him on the wrong day. I don't know if he thought I went over his head. I don't know, but it all ended. All these years of hard work and everything ended in a second. And then they told me I was blackballed from the company, and that was really hard for me. No, it's okay. That was 2014. So
what was the lesson learned? What lesson did you learn?
I think to slow down. I think I knew my potential, but I don't think I was slowing down for anybody. I think I was so on fire then that I wanted that success right away. And another way to look at it is, at first I hated them. I said, I hate those people. Why did they do that to me? And blah, blah, blah. After a year of reflecting and crying for every day, all the time, I think I came to the conclusion that when I started getting into helping people, so I had someone from WWE call me, and I'm not going to say his name, but he was a mentor to me, and he said, "Dude, I think you're bigger than the business in terms of I don't think you're made to be a wrestler. I think you're made to really help people." And I didn't see that. And I was like, I don't know about that. And he goes, "Well, remember this time when I don't know how old you were, but we were in some strip club. And I remember you complaining about it because you don't like strip clubs. And next thing you know, we see all these women surrounding you, all these strippers surrounding you. And we're like, oh, look at Jamin. He's bringing in these girls for a guy who says he doesn't like a strip club. He's bringing all these girls." And we got closer to the conversation, and you're sitting there talking to him about life and asking, and I didn't realize that. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just being me, and I was making the best out of my circumstances because I hated strip clubs. I was never a big fan of them. But he brought that to my attention, and I guess it made me think a little bit. And then I started reflecting on my whole life. Even when I was in special ed classes, and even when I was on field trips, there would always be these kids that would latch on to me and like me, even though I was quiet, but they just like to be around me or something. So I guess I picked up a little bit there, and other than wrestling, spirituality is a passion of mine, if you want to use that word. I think it's a limiting word, but I think just understanding what this all is. Does any of us really know what life is, And I think always kind of being in the state of, I don't know what this is, keeps me in an open field of new possibilities versus saying, I know what this is and I know it's this way. I think that's how the walls start building up. So I guess so I got into getting a website made and saying, well, let me try if I can do this life coaching thing or something. And I got into it a little bit, and I hate that word, by the way, life coach. It's so limiting to it's this idea that, I can do something for you that where I look at myself as an empowerment artist. I believe that I just use conversation as a focusing tool to fine tune our own potency. To kind of understand ourselves, not so much me giving you an answer or me telling you what to do. So I think a lot of my practice is based around that. So I'd consider myself an empowerment artist, maybe not so much a life coach or a personal development coach. If you're doing SEO and things like that online, then maybe that's where it fits in. But as an individual doesn't like that. And I tell all my clients that when I first meet them.
When my friends actually come to ask me for advice, or they come to complain and things like this, I always say I'm not going to interfere or make you do anything. I'd rather be a guide as to where you should be thinking towards or how you should, you know what I mean? Like, I don't like to interfere. That's why I also don't like the word life coach, because it's basically it's saying that I can make you do something you can't do yourself, when technically it's not really true. You know, you might be able to help me think in a certain aspect or way and show me like the steps towards a thing, but at the end of the day it takes me to do these steps and get towards that goal, right? So
yeah, man. And I've seen in life coaching, and you know, and this is not to dog on any life coach, because I know they in their hearts are trying to do something good for somebody. But I think I've seen life coaches on videos and YouTubes telling people what to do, what books to read. That's all good and dandy, but eventually those people are going to find out they're not being themselves in it still. And I think it's just helping someone understand, it's helping people understand what they are and having them come to their own conclusions if those things work for them or not. Not so much this, I want you to do what I say because this is my idea and I'm so grand and I'm so great and you're going to do it. You might get people to do something for you, but over time, they're not going to feel fulfilled yet because they're not really doing what they are. You got to help people enhance who they are, not change what they are based upon what you think. And you know, it doesn't resonate with me. So I like what you said there, though. It's guiding some, kind of just holding their hand, or you know, walking down the yellow brick road with them. You know, you're just giving them some tools or to live by or to enjoy, or hey, this is my experience. You teach people through your beingness, not what you tell them.
Right.
What you're being, not what you say.
Exactly.
Just you show people this is how, and people pick up on it and they will draw their own conclusions. And I think that's the most powerful thing you can do for an individual, is have them draw their own conclusions based upon the knowledge and the history they have. Not so much, because I learned this in a life coaching book and you got to ask this question to get people to do this thing. It sounds like manipulation to me. I don't know.
Amazing. Wow.
By the way, we've hit a timestamp.
Yeah, exactly. We're running out of time here. But,
oh, wow. Okay. Well, there you have it. That was quick.
We could go off for another hour.
This is amazing. Yeah, my mind's blown. Jamin, I do have something I do want to ask before we wrap up.
Yeah, of course.
We need some of your empowerment artistry for the show. How can we make this show the number one, the greatest podcast? Yeah, exactly. What do you think it's going to take?
The first answer is I don't know. The second answer,
I know, that's fair. No, I'm not. Yeah, but it's just like, what do you think? Yeah.
No, well, here's what I'm gonna say about you two. I really like. I don't even know you guys. We just met now. Literally, we all just met now. But I'm having a good time with you guys. Like we're having fun.
Same here, man.
I would ask you the question. What do you feel could be better? Because I'm just meeting you. So I'll tell you off of my first impression, I like you guys a lot. I think you guys are a great dynamic. You're fun. You make me laugh. These are all great qualities. But what do you think where do you think it can get better for you guys? Where do you think this can build?
Ooh. Never thought of this actually.
This is good.
Never thought of this. Where can we take this? To the moon.
Well, what are you paying attention to? So are you guys paying attention to your numbers? Are you paying attention? No. Like why do you do this? Why does this podcast exist? Let me ask that.
It exists to be someone decided to wake me up from sleeping and asked me to do the podcast, so I'd rather have him answer. Ali, that's you.
Right. Well, I feel like I heard this quote once. I've said this before, but I feel like there's this YouTuber called PewDiePie, who's my hero in the YouTube space. And he has this quote where if you don't give up, you never fail, pretty much, on like YouTube. So for us, we're doing it because we really just want to ride the wave. We have this great opportunity of meeting all the different people. Yeah. And we've had great feedback from people watching our episodes and telling us, hey, this actually changed my life in a little way. They learned an idea or something, but that actually helped someone out. So it doesn't take too much for me, right, to think like, hey, let's keep driving this, let's keep doing this, let's keep meeting people. Now they have this opportunity, just ride the wave. As long as people still want to come on the show, we can still have a show and people can keep learning. And so that's what I'm also, we focus on getting like great guests. I guess like it'd be great if we can get more people to watch and listen and come on, and so we can make, have more of an impact. But yeah, I don't know how that happens. I guess you got to keep going.
Yeah, well, I think you're right about that. You got to keep going, but also, well, how old is your show?
249 days.
Yeah, 249 days. So yes. A year or
less than a year.
Less than a year. So you're so fresh into the game. Look, I'm looking to get into a podcast too, and I don't know what it's going to take, but I know I got to listen to my heart. And what I would invite you guys to do is listen to your hearts. Like, you guys are doing this for a reason, because this is something that brings a genuine passion. I think when we're trying to look for the results, though, that's where we get caught. And so now when you're looking for a result, you may not see that. You may not see that in fruition right away. And what that can cause is a block then in the mind of, maybe I'm not good enough, or maybe this isn't so great, or you start questioning yourself in it. Now, this is a whole new energy that starts surrounding you. So now when you do these things, as much as you love it and it's fun, there's this little thing tickering around in your out of body that will be floating around you no matter what. So I think it's try not to pay attention to the numbers or success rate right away in that. Focus on the people. Focus on how you make them feel. Like, since I've been talking to you, I love you guys. Like, look, I reached out. I think I reached out to you guys for like, so like, why did I do that? What did I do? What was it? I don't even, let me think about it. Now I have to think about it. The reason why I did it was because I saw you guys interviewing interesting people, and I was like, these people are giving good information. I don't know. I just felt you guys were giving value. Like, isn't that what do we do as entrepreneurs or whatever? We give value to people. We fix problems, what's the problem in your case? Maybe people just need some more information, some basic information. Yeah. They can go to Joe Rogan or whoever, the biggest ones, but you can also create value just being who you are, and create a niche for yourself that doesn't have to be millions of viewers and still be a successful thing. How to monetize it, I don't know, but I know that if you believe that if you guys keep moving forward, you're going to do great. And as your new friend, I would say my phone number is always open to the both of you. And if you ever want to talk personal things, so we're talking about the podcast, but then also there's an energy that surrounds the podcast, and that's your own personal thoughts and what you're personally going through. And I'm not going to ask you that like over on the air or anything, but I would like to. I'm like, yeah. So what are you afraid of? Were you being a piece of crap in your life? Were you being bad? But yeah, I think that's a big key, guys. I think it's like understanding yourself in your own life. And I don't know. I hope I was able to open some doors in that regard. Definitely. And once again, not tell you how to do it, but show you through my being that you can be what you are too. You guys are more than capable. I can tell you that. I love you two together. You guys are great. I mean, this is, I really do. I enjoyed, a freaking hour went by so fast. Yeah, and really did. That's great.
It's still going. Yeah, that's so good. Yeah.
Well, you know what else is good? This show. So thank you very much.
Make sure to subscribe.
Yeah.
To the show. If you enjoyed this episode half as much as we enjoyed making this for you, please do like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. You can follow Jamin, and I almost said your name wrong, which is
that's okay. That's okay. Don't worry about it.
You can follow him in all the social medias. We'll leave a link to that in the description.
Link in the bio.
Right?
Yes.
What else is there? Jamin, is there anything you'd like to shout out or let the world know?
Man, I just think, like, for all your listeners who are listening and who are new and whoever sees this, just thanks for holding space for us to be us and allowing us to just express ourselves in the most honest way possible. And I hope you are at home and you got something maybe valuable out of it, not because we're great, but because us as humans, as a humanity is great, where we can all do whatever it is that we want. And I really encourage you guys to continue to watch these guys, because if you valued anything I said at all, please value that. I really think these are genuine people who really want to help others out through interviewing other extraordinary people. And I just think these guys are great. So Thank you for bringing me on your show and allowing me to be part of it. It's freaking awesome.
Thank you for coming. Honestly, this is amazing. Great. This has been A to the show. Salute to cover. Subscribe or else. Peace.
Peace.